Hey everyone, welcome to our final week of our series, Rooted, Stronger Than Ever. We know that there's challenges ahead and opportunities to be reached for, and to do either one, we've got to have something to draw on. This week we talk about how important being rooted is to be resilient, enduring real challenges. And so this week, make sure we lean in just a little deeper. Here we go. Listen, we are coming to a close in this series that we've been doing called Rooted, Stronger Than Ever. If you've been around for any part of this journey, you have taken step after step after step as we stepped into 2023 of reaching just a little bit deeper. And today we're gonna finish in a part of the Bible called Jeremiah. So if you have a Bible, I wanna encourage you to grab that and go to Jeremiah chapter 17. If you didn't bring a Bible along, no worries. You can scan this QR that's up on the screen right now. It's going to take you to a simple website where the very first link is Bible app. You can download that and use that anytime. You don't need to wait for us to help you know what to read in the scripture. There's lots of really great Bible reading plans there, ways to be hearing from God on a regular basis, finding out who He is, who we are. The second link there is a link to message notes that just highlights everything so you can keep track of is this guy almost done or what, right? That's on the second link, along with all the scriptures that I'll use that you can screenshot, click on, and follow along as you go there. But we'd love for you to jump into Jeremiah 17. Listen, we've been saying it this way, that I don't know exactly what everyone's 2022 held, but I know it probably held at least two things. My guess is that everybody had some hardship in 2022. If that was you, just say, uh-huh. Yeah, listen, we've had that. We're far enough into 2023, several of us are like, yep, this year too, right? But there was also opportunity to be reached for. Some of it we were able to kind of lay hold of and step into, and some of it just we missed along the way. There was opportunity and hardship in 2022, and the same will be true in some way, shape, or form in 2023. And what we believe is that God has invited us to be the kind of people who have the kind of roots that reach down deep into who He is alongside His people that allow us to weather, survive, endure, and even thrive in the midst of the challenge that's ahead in 2023. He invites us bit by bit to root by root, step by step. We've said little by little, just hang on to more and more of who He is so that whatever is ahead, whatever adversity may surprise us, whatever adversity has followed you from 2022 into 2023, He can sustain you and help you walk through that really, really well. And at the same time, in 2023, we're gonna have opportunities that are worth reaching for, striving for. God has good in mind for all of us, impact to be had in our lives, the lives of people that we love, and that He might be more known in the people that we know around us in our lives. But we gotta have some resources and some strength to draw on from that. And this is what we talk about when we're talking about being rooted. Now, last week we talked about what we don't want to be is what the rest of culture is. You all know February is National Quit What You Started in January month. Right? This is when it all falls apart. This is when it's nice to go back to the gym because everybody who was after it, and then January is nope, no more. We don't want to be those people. We've set off in a direction and we want to keep going. We want little by little to step into some habits, some practices, inviting some people into our world that are going to cause us to thrive little by little. We want to be the people who stay after it. In fact, that's kind of the theme for today. Everybody say, stay. Okay, good. Now, I want you to muster up whatever level of bossiness you possibly can, executive leadership potential, find it in you, and then turn to someone next to you and say, stay. All right. Listen, that turned out way more like commanding a pet, and I apologize for that. That's on me. But listen, we talked about this last week when Aaron was talking about this scripture in Matthew where Jesus was telling the story about seed that was scattered, and it was just so promising at the beginning. It just had so much life and just shot up out of the ground. But then whether it was stony soil, where it just did not have the root system to sustain it when the heat came along, it withered and dried. Or the worries of life and the lure of wealth often cause us to be distracted. We often set off on good paths for each one of us, yeah, we're dialed in, we're going, it's January, and February comes along, it's like squirrel, and we're off somewhere else. That's not us. We want to be the people who stay, who remain, Because when we abide, when we remain, this is really circling back to where we started this whole series, when we remain, when we stay connected, when we make a home in the way that God is inviting us to root down deeply together, we actually get to thrive. And this is exactly what we see in Jeremiah 17. If you have your Bible, verses 7 and 8, this is what he says. He says, "Blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence." Literally, that word there is refuge, the place you thrive, the place you hide, protection, all these things. We'll talk about it in a minute. It says, they are like trees planted along a riverbank. If any of you were here a few weeks ago, Psalm 1 sounds very familiar, right? We imagined this thriving tree. It says, they are like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach down deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit. In a sense, we're gonna bring the whole series together today. We talked about fruitfulness last week, right? We said, listen, if you really are developing roots, you'll know because your life is producing fruit. Your character looks more and more like Jesus, and the impact you have on people around you. As a follower of Jesus, you find yourself helping people follow Jesus who help people follow Jesus. This is what a fruitful life looks like. And this picture of Psalm 1 that we did several weeks ago of a tree planted alongside a stream, thriving, all of these things come together in this week. But really the focus of Jeremiah 17 has everything to do with resilience or staying, and maybe especially with things when things were hard, especially when things get difficult. You saw it. It says it's not worried about when the heat comes along or many, many months of drought. And it just occurs to me that everybody has challenges in our life. You all said, right? All of us do. Every single one of us has concerns, things that kind of dog us, things that plague us, things that track us and follow us, the kind of worries of our life, whether for our family or our kids, for our finances, for our health. We're waiting on that report, waiting on that next appointment, living in that liminal space between here and there. We're just not quite sure. It's like, just things that cause us to be unsettled. Yeah, it's a blend of good and bad, but man, doesn't it just seem like the challenges follow us just a little bit closer? I've got stuff that bothers me for sure. In fact, I kind of go in spurts, like fits and starts with professional counseling. I'll step in and just try to sort through this next barrier in my life. And this last barrier in my life has been this low hum of anxiety, just kind of always there, that comes out sideways and crankiness with my kids sometimes, or just kind of keeps me up at night. In fact, we were sitting with our staff not long ago trying to learn how to be really great listeners. And we started with this question that I'll just ask you. What keeps you up at night? You want to have a really great, meaningful, next level conversation with people in your life? Just sit down, ask them, and wait for a long time and let them talk. Just listen all the way. What keeps you up at night? There's stuff that bothers us. And I wonder if maybe, I know that a lot of our life, we just kind of run so fast or get so busy or do all the kinds of things that we don't have to look at these things, right? They're the kind of things you wish you didn't have to think about, but when life slows down just enough, they crop right back up. Oh, I'm worried about this, I'm wondering about that, I don't know how this is gonna turn out, right? I'm wondering if you might just be brave enough in our time together to just quiet yourself long enough to allow one or two of those things to just surface again, and allow it to be the thing that you hold in front of you as we look at what God has to say today. In the scripture, it said these trees are they're like planted along a river with roots that reach down deep. But it says they are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. I wonder for you, what are the things that tend to bother you? What are you bothered by today? What is it that bothers you? Or what have you been worrying for long months about? What is the thing that's just been tracking you along? Hold one or two of those things in front of you. Maybe not the hardest thing in your world right now. Maybe not try to swing for the fences out of the gate. And maybe not also the annoying driver on the way here. Somewhere in between, something that feels like, oh man, I would love to just have a little more peace in regard to that. In real life, there are just things that cause worry. So call it to mind, not the lightest, not the worst, just beyond doable. in this season of trying to find my way out of some kind of low hum anxiety that just kind of always stands underneath, I realized there's this script that runs in my world when I get stressed. It sounds like this. I've told you before. Work hard, go fast, be smart. This is what I tell myself. Work hard, go fast, be smart. Work hard, go fast, be smart. And when the stress goes up, or when the anxiety goes up, or when the worry goes up, you know what I do? I work harder, I go faster, I try to be smarter. I work harder, I go faster, I try to be smarter. Does anyone tired yet just hearing me say that? Like, listen, that's the script. I don't know what your script is. Some of you are like crazy cleaners when you get stressed out, aren't you? People walk in your house and it's immaculate and they're like, oh no, what's wrong? Tell me what's going on. Listen, we just need a better script. And there's this one I've been clinging to from an author. I read a couple of his books, Canoe in the Mountains and Tempered Resilience, and I just love this, and it actually serves us as a great outline of Jeremiah 17, 7, and 8. It sounds like this. Stay calm, stay connected, and stay the course. Stay calm. I know there's a million things that want to shake you, cause you worry. And I bet everyone around you is looking at the things in your life. Oh yeah, you should totally be worried. You should work harder. You should go faster. You should be smarter. Let me give you the answer. Oh, I can't believe you're so calm. Why would you be so calm? You need to be worked up because these things are crazy in your life. No. Stay calm, which has everything to do with how we show up in our internal world. And I don't know about you, but when I get stressed out, when I work hard, go fast, be smart, it's actually called go mode, and everybody gets out of my way because I am unpleasant to be around. But listen, the better thing to do is not only stay calm internally, but stay connected relationally to navigate the things that we're going to go after, whether it's opportunities or challenges ahead of us. We not only need to stay calm, stay connected, and stay the course. God has laid out a map in front of us, a way in which He's invited us to live a life of impact, a life of peace internally, a life of connectedness relationally, and a life of impact around us. And so we need to stay calm, stay connected, stay the course. Somebody say, stay. Listen, so let's just do it real quick. Here we go. Stay calm is where we're going to start. Stay calm. Man, stay calm. I know everything around us says we should get worked up. And I get there's legitimate reasons for that. You really want to know what the doctor's going to say. You really want to know if your kids are going to make that choice. You really want to know if that promotion is going to come through. You really can't figure out how the finances are going to work. I don't know what it is that you might be holding in front of you that plagues you with worry. But how we show up, we actually get a choice in this. You saw it in Jeremiah 17. He says, listen, when you trust and when you take refuge in the Lord, you don't need to freak out. You have the possibility of staying calm. He says it this way in the Message version in Jeremiah 17:8. It says, there's never a worry through the hottest of summers. We know some things about that, yeah? Never a worry through the hottest of summers, never dropping a leaf, serene and calm even through drought. Listen, God invites us to live with Him in such a way that when everyone else is running crazy, we rely on something different. Now, I know this is a picture. It's an overstatement. It's as alarming as Philippians chapter 4, where Paul has the audacity to say, don't worry about anything. Like, really? That does not seem right. Be serious, and here's why. Because when we stay calm, it is not a calm that we muster up from within ourselves. We just need to acknowledge our calm does not come from our strength. Can I get a uh-huh? Listen, you've tried this, right? How helpful is it when someone's freaking out that you show up and say, calm down? It's a great way to get smacked, right? No. Our calm is not something we muster up from inside of us. If you want to know how relying on human capacity really turns out, you should read the 2 verses before this in Jeremiah 17. He doesn't say, blessed are those who rely on the strength of mere humans. He says, cursed are those. They're like a stunted juniper in the desert with no hope of a future. And many of us are following Jesus for exactly that reason. We came to the end of ourselves and realized we needed more than we brought. And so maybe that's you, and you're trying to find something more than you brought, and I'm just here to tell you, Jesus is it. He invites us to place our confidence and our trust in Him. Our calm is not something we muster up from inside us. I also want to say this before we go too far, that when we say stay calm, we would love to actually say that to our lives. We want to look at our lives and say, stay calm. Everybody calm down. Can everything just calm down? I need to get to a place that's more calm than this. No. Our calm does not come from our circumstance. I know we wish that was true. I know we would love for the thing that's plaguing us to just go away. We would love for it to not be a thing in our lives, but that's not where our calm comes from. In Jeremiah 17, 7 and 8, it's very, very clear. It's not situation and it's not ourselves that are our source of calm. It says God is our source of calm. It says this, but blessed is the man who trusts me, God, or the woman who sticks with God. Somebody say, stay. Stay, just stay. Our calm is not from us. Our calm is from him. Paul would say this in Philippians chapter 4. He says, don't be anxious about anything, but in everything with gratitude, present your request to God. And the peace of God, which goes beyond anything we could ever understand, will, do you remember what it says next? It will guard, yeah. Some of you have written this on your heart, I love it. It's a guard your hearts, sets up a kind of protection that allows a calm and a peace to be in us, a stability and a stable, like an established, a rootedness that says, no matter the heat, no matter the length of drought, I don't need to freak out. It goes on and it says, and the God of peace, not just the peace of God, but the God of peace himself will be with us. He'll guard our hearts. Now, I was thinking about this picture of trust and confidence. If you look into the original language, it literally means you are so at peace that you're like careless. Have you ever seen kids just do crazy stuff because they knew their parents were right nearby and they're totally fine? Have you seen this? This is that picture. Such a high degree of trust in him that we are almost careless. We don't need to latch on and try to control everything. We don't need to work hard, go fast, be smart. We need to stay calm. And it's not because we can just presume naively that everything's going to be okay. It's because we have one who protects us, that guards our heart. As I said earlier, this word confidence has everything to do with refuge. Where do you hide, right? Like a kid freaked out about the monsters in the bedroom, those sheets are like magic, right? They just keep you safe if you can just cover up. I was trying to think of an image that we could all hold on to. And my mind just immediately wandered to one of the greatest movies of all time. It's called The Mighty Ducks. Have you seen The Mighty Ducks? Listen, there's this ragtag bunch of kids who don't have the gear that they need, and suddenly this guy in a circumstance ends up showing up with all of the right gear and becomes a coach with some questionable coaching methods for sure. But we get a pretty good picture of the kind of calm and peace we can live with. Watch this.
Nice drill, Coach. Really, very cute. But when are you gonna work with me in goal?
Goldberg, do you trust me?
My mother would not approve of this, Coach. She'd like me to live to be bar mitzvahed.
This is your bar mitzvah, Goldberg. Today you will become a man.
Coach, I think you got the ceremonies mixed up. It's more like a circumcision. Coach, will you come back here? What did I ever do to you, man?
District 5, ready!
Oh, man, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die.
Hey!
Oh, guys, would you nice knowing it, Goldie. Oh, please, no.
Fire!
This doesn't hurt. You win. Give me your best shot. Oh, come on, let's go. Beautiful save. Come on, Kevin, what you got? Well, go. Nice shot, man. I'm a dog. I'm a crazy dog. Come on. I am Goldberg, the goalie.
Listen, he just goes, all he had ever known was magazines taped to his shins, and the pain of pucks headed his way. And so what begins, I'm gonna die. He's just freaking out. But he just realized he had received a different kind of protection than he had ever experienced in the past. And so the kind of freedom to do the very thing that was his job to do as a part of the team, he was able to step in. And I'm just wondering, followers of Jesus especially, I'm just wondering if we've underestimated our protection. We freak out and we see the pucks flying at us. They're going every which direction. And nice knowing you, Goldberg, right? No. The protection that we have in him, the confidence we can have in him, allows us to be calm in the fiercest of heat and in the longest of drought. It is not because of how good we trust that we can be calm. It is because of how trustworthy he is and how strong our protection is. In fact, I just want to offer you a simple prayer to wrap up each day from Psalm chapter 4. It's from one of my favorite apps. I listen to it just about every night because I like the audio version of it. It's called Lectio 365. And from Psalm 4, verse 8, it just says, I go to bed and sleep in peace because only God, you, keep me safe. You don't have to stay up at night with worries. You don't have to live with low-grade anxiety. God invites us to stay calm. Somebody say, stay. Listen, we just don't need to stay calm. We need to stay connected. Because it's not just about the way we show up internally. It's about who we show up with. And first and foremost, what Jeremiah 17 says is that we need to stay with God. Above all, we need to stay connected to God. Some of you have been experiencing this. As we've said, hey, read this, read this, read this. You have allowed God's word to fill you up in a different kind of way than other times. And I'm just wondering, I would be willing to bet that's created a sense of calm and confidence in you that maybe is different than other seasons, where you haven't spent time listening to him. Listen, God creates this. This is why we want to take in what he has said, not because there's some test anywhere else, but because we want to stay connected to God. The way we hear from him often is through his word, and so we want to consistently be listening to what he has to say. In fact, over the last couple or 3 weeks or since January, what kind of habits have served you well to hear from him? Not just hear from the panic news, not just hear from the best advice of your local, like coworkers, neighbors, or anybody else, but to hear from a God who is capable of maintaining calm, one who is worthy of being our refuge, one who has the wisdom to show us the best way forward, one who we can draw the kind of strength from to endure. It says that when we are planted in him, when we get into like dicey circumstances, when the heat goes up or when the drought lasts too long, we want to be transplanted. We want out. We want to be somewhere else. But more often than not, God saves us through what we have to endure, not from what we have to endure. And so we stay connected to him. He never promised an easy road. In fact, I've been reading Jeremiah, and I bet some of you have a recollection of one other verse in Jeremiah. Anybody remember any other verses from Jeremiah? Everybody loves Jeremiah 29:11, right? Everybody's favorite. Let's put it on a meme, let's put it on our Facebook, and let's feel good about ourselves. What everybody forgets is that after he says, I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Do you remember what he says just a few verses later? Y'all are headed into captivity for the next 70 years. Listen, God's plans for us are seldom the plans we would write for ourselves. And they are seldom the plans that we would prefer. But while the plans are often different, his character is always the same. He does work for good in the midst of all things. And as I said, seldom saves us from, often saves us through. We just need to stay connected. Right between those two verses in 29, you will find that you will seek me and you will find me if you seek me with your whole heart. God's promise is always his presence and his strength, which allows calm when we stay connected. We don't just want to stay connected to him, though. We want to stay connected to his people, right? How often has it been so important that as you try to go squirrel, your friend goes, nope, right back here, right? You're like, you know what? The gym was great in January. Here comes February, and your buddy calls you up and says, we're going to the gym. And you stay with it. We need people around us who support us deeply. And we need those kind of people long before the heat rises and before the drought hits. We cannot wait until the time of crisis to start putting down roots. We need to stay calm and we need to stay connected. I have a couple of families who I'm pretty close to who have lost young adult children in just tragic circumstances. But one of the beautiful things about this is that both of them have been cultivating community around them and watching the people of God come to their side and walk through this heat, this drought, this terrible year. They will look back on 2022 and 2023 as some of the very worst years of their entire life, not knowing exactly how they got through. But they will tell you the story of how faithful God was and how present his people were. We need to stay connected. In fact, if you talk to people who have weathered hard things well, you will almost always find a cast of characters standing all around them. They'll have name after name after name. We need to cultivate that. Now, let me just tell you, it's February, and it's easy to get distracted. How many of you are getting busy again, right? January, you're like, oh, I got best of intentions, and the busyness of life and the lure of wealth is trying to pull you out of some great things that you started, yeah? Don't let February be National Quit Everything Month. No. and with other people in your life. I bet they've done some offensive things. Some of you have like stepped in and you've taken a risk and you've invited some people into your lives and you found out that they were annoying. And what I mean by that is they are human. Of course they're gonna offend you. You're offensive too. We all we harm, we bang into each other, we bump into each other. You gotta choose to stay anyway. Be wise, be discerning. Don't put yourself in dangerous situations. But listen, we cannot let little dings become excuses to step away from people who need us to speak the truth and stay with. Or sometimes, honestly, in community, we just get bored, right? The week after week or the getting together, it's like, hey, I don't know if this is going anywhere. But listen, roots are like that. When was the last time you watched like an hour-long program just watching roots grow? It's terribly boring. And yet entirely essential. There are things in life that you don't feel like doing that just have to happen, because when you get to the moment where they are needed and it hasn't, it's devastating. We need to stay calm. We need to stay connected. And we need to stay the course. Too often when we get into these days ahead and the heat rises and the drought comes around, we just draw bad conclusions. We draw terrible conclusions like, I must be in the wrong place, or this must be the wrong path. It's hard. It's not supposed to be hard. And my question is, whoever said it wasn't supposed to be hard? I know we don't want it to be hard. We all prefer easy. This is the difference between immaturity and maturity. And young men especially, I just watch them. They just always want to choose the easy path. It's like, no. You will know, we will see maturity in each one of us when we are able to endure the path that is harder but is right. Adversity does not mean we are on the wrong path. In fact, Jesus made a promise. He said, in this world, you will have what? Do you remember? You will have trouble. Let me just burst the bubble for any of you who are like all about prosperity gospel. Jesus never promised easy. There are times where following Jesus actually makes things way harder. Way harder. To show up well when people are like totally offensive and rude to you, how much easier it is to just pop off with the sharp word right back. You know, that's just not who we are, because we live for something higher than our immediate satisfaction. How much easier would it be not to give proportions of what God has given us away to others in His name and allow Him to shape our heart? It is so much easier to keep. You know how many vacations I could go on with the money that we give away in Jesus' name? It'd be so much easier. It would be so much easier to just fudge those numbers just a little bit so the government gets less than what they're entitled to by the law from me and my family. It's just so much easier. There's all kinds of easy roads that are lousy and lead nowhere. There are things that are just harder sometimes about following Jesus. Sometimes it's of our own making. Sometimes it's the way others come into our world and bring like junk into our world, and sometimes it's just the messed up world in which we live. But we can't think that heat or drought means that we're in the wrong place. We can't just uproot and transplant when we don't like the way things feel. We are not people who chase comfort or avoid hardship. Yeah, we need to be wise, but remember, followers of Jesus, we're just after something bigger. God did not promise or invite us to comfort. Our hope is not in comfort or ease. Our hope is in His presence in our world and the difference He has invited us with His strength to make around us. That our character is formed and forged, that because our roots go deep into the water, it doesn't matter how hot it gets or how long the drought lasts, we bear fruit in every season, a fruit of a character that looks more and more like Jesus, pointing people to hope with words and generosity that show up in other people's lives that help point them in the direction of Jesus. And sometimes that just makes things really, really hard. And that's okay. In those moments, we not only need to stay calm and stay connected, we need to stay the course, not jumping ship, not bailing out. In fact, in Romans chapter 5, Paul says it this way. This is how crazy he gets. He says some crazy. This is crazy if you're a follower of Jesus. This is extra crazy if you're not. This doesn't make any sense outside of the context of Jesus. He says, we rejoice, too, when we run into, what does it say? Anybody got problems and trials? Listen, we rejoice when we run into those. He says, for we know that they help us develop endurance. You only get endurance if you endure, if you stay the course. There's no other path to this. And in being the sort of person who stays, you can become the sort of person who endures. He says, and endurance develops a strength of character. This is some of that fruit that we were talking about, that would be shaped by these kinds of things, and the character strengthens our confident hope of salvation. That somehow, some of the adversity that we face actually invites us, demands us to stay in the heat, to stay in the drought. And in doing that, we become the sort of person with staying strength. And people see that and say, wow, there's actually hope for way better. I'm not a victim of my circumstance. I am not captive to comfort, but instead we get to endure, which sounds a lot like this man, Jesus, wouldn't you say? Who endured all kinds of problems and trials, who stayed remarkably calm, silent before his accusers all the way to the end, right? Enduring immense suffering that he had no culpability for, falsely accused, sham trial, horrific ending. But he stayed the course. Knowing what was ahead, he set his face like flint and walked boldly, quietly, convicted into that. And in his victory, we find life because of him, that he conquered death on our behalf, showing, listen, when we fix our eyes on him, like him, we can stay calm. We can stay connected, and we can stay the course. So this is what we've been saying. Becoming the sort of people who are after something bigger will require us to stay calm, stay connected, and stay the course. And so let me just ask you as we wrap up this first series of the year, what have you discovered in these first 6 weeks that you can't afford to lose? What kind of insight or habit or practice have you picked up that you can't let February become National Quit What You Started in January month? What do you want to hold on to? You can't afford, who you are becoming is not worth losing track of. What do you want to hold on to? And as you think, I bet there's things have been really, really great about the last 6 or 8 weeks. But I bet there's also places yet to go. Like, allow yourself to just be affirmed in what you've done well over the first 6 weeks. But then ask yourself this question: what do you want to start? Maybe you've been, maybe you've known there's something you need to jump into and you just haven't pulled the trigger. It's just time. Get going. You can start stuff in January. It's totally okay. You can start stuff in February too. It's a great month. Just different name. You can start something. What do you need to stop that's hindering you from doing the thing that you know God is inviting you to do? What do you need to modify about your calendar, your priorities, that internal script going on in your world, so that for months ahead you can stay calm, you can stay connected, and above all, stay the course. So this week, let's stay with it. Keep going. We've begun, let's continue. In fact, reflect on the past series and think about the different ways, things you want to hold on to, and the next steps that you want to take. If there's any way we can support you along the way, we'd love to. Head over to canyonridge.org, where you'll find everything you need to know, along with a way to get in touch with us. If this was helpful to you, I encourage you, share it with someone you know, invite a friend along, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We'll see you soon.